Hello, I'm Jay Crumlaw with Chandler Systems, and today we're going to go through some minor troubleshooting with our commercial products. We haven't done a whole lot of videos with the commercial units, so we're going to take this opportunity and explain to you why it does what it does and how to tell when it actually is working or not working. Some of the things I'm going to tell you can be identified without even having the app on your phone or on an iPad. So if you are the owner or the end user, these are things you can look for when you're on the job and your equipment is not working or you don't think it's working because of what you're seeing. So the first thing we want to identify is the colors of the lights when the system is naturally working. On a triplex softener, which is what we are working on today, they are set up as a progressive ProPlex style application. So the unit that is lit up green, that is the main unit in service. If you see two of the units with yellow lights, those units are in standby. They're actually waiting for a higher flow rate before they will come online. I'll give you some rough numbers. Let's say this is a 60 gallon a minute system. For the first unit can flow 20 gallon a minute by itself. The second unit will come online, then it can flow 40. The third unit will come online, then it's capable of 60. But what we do when we set them up from the factory is we will set it up as a threshold of 80% of what each tank is capable of doing. So if it's a 20 gallon a minute system, the first tank is going to flow up to 16 gallon a minute before it triggers the second tank to come online. And then the third tank will come online when the first two tanks hit 80% of what they're capable of. This is the ProPlex system, and what this does is it gives the system time to catch up because it's going to take a moment for the unit to get from standby into the service position, so that threshold gives it that time that it needs to get into position. But what you want to look for as the end user, if your system is not working properly, is we want to make sure if you see green and yellow, the system is good. If you ever come down and you see some of the lights are actually red, that means the valve has come disconnected from the hub, or the hub has lost its signal and it's not sending correct communication to the valves themselves. So if you ever see red on any of the valves, but you look at the hub and the hub has a green light or a blue light depending on the age of the hub. The hub 1, which says drop connect in big letters, should be a blue light if it's connected to the Wi-Fi. A hub 2, which is going to say drop hub in big letters, will have a green light on it with a blue Wi-Fi light underneath. So as long as the light on the hub is correct, but one or all of your valves are red, just simply unplug them, wait about 30 seconds, remove the battery, plug the unit back in, and it should reconnect on its own. If it doesn't, give us a call and we'll talk you through how to re-add that unit back onto the system. But typically something like this would happen if the power is interrupted to the facility, and when it starts back up, it just didn't get a clean start, and all you have to do is just re-trigger it. The other thing you want to look for is if you are in the facility and you're not getting good water treatment, if one of the valves is actually showing the lights rotating continuously, but you do not hear a motor running, that indicates that either the drive motor on the piston is possibly stuck or the drive motor on the brine valve is potentially stuck. Now, on a residential application, a single tank system, or like some of your smaller commercials where there's only a single tank system, you will not see this brine motor. The only time we utilize these brine motors is when it's in a ProPlex style multi-tank system. The reason for these brine motors is when the tanks are in standby and when they move back and forth into the service position with the progressive flow, at some point in time that piston actually runs past the brine fill position and can actually put water in the brine tank as it's moving from standby to service and from service to standby. So on any ProPlex style system, we're going to have the brine motor opening and closing only when the unit is in brine draw or brine refill to avoid this. So if you get a notification on your phone, or if you come down and you see the lights rolling, that's possibly what that means, is one of the motors is stuck, or it's not getting a signal and it hasn't gotten into the position it was supposed to get into in the time that it was allowed. Now, along with that, we want to talk about what these lights are doing in a normal application. So a lot of times we'll get phone calls of, my bottom two lights are flashing if the valve is in service. That's just an indication of flow. That's all that is. And then we get conversations of, the top two lights keep blinking purple. That's normal. That's actually what the valve is designed to do. That's telling you that the valve is communicating with the hub. That's how we know that the system is actually up and doing what it's supposed to be doing. Another situation we have come across is, every once in a while, when these valves, if the power goes out, when the valves reconnect, sometimes they will lose their identity as far as valve 1, valve 2, valve 3. Now, when we build these systems, we actually build them, especially like a triplex system. You'll never see one with a single brine tank. There'll always be multiple brine tanks. And the way we set the systems up is they will stagger which valve actually goes to which brine tank. In this application, valve 1 and valve 3 share a brine tank. Valve 2 has its own. The reason for that is valve 1 goes through its complete regeneration cycle. The last thing it does is it puts water back in the brine tank during the brine fill process. Well, the water going in the brine tank is going to need time to interact with the salt and actually create the brine necessary to regenerate the next unit. So the reason that we stagger them is, brine 1 or tank 1 goes through a complete regeneration. Last thing it does is it fills the brine tank. The next valve to go through a regeneration is going to be valve 2. On a softener, a complete regeneration takes roughly, we'll call it an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes, depending on the size of the unit. That gives tank 3 that much time to actually generate the brine in case this unit needs to regenerate as soon as tank 2 is done. If you don't have that stagger, what you end up with is, tank 1 can regenerate cleanly. If tank 2 is sharing tank 1's brine tank, when it goes into brine draw, it has no brine. It's essentially just pulling a little bit of salty water into the system, but you're not getting a proper brine dosage. So what we will see is, I'm just going to show you this quickly, a way to determine if the valves are still in the order they should be is you go into, when you're looking at the dashboard, go into devices. Click on your softener. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you unit 1, unit 2, and unit 3 at the top. And then for each unit, it's going to show you a status. So what you want to do is, like unit 1, in this box, you can say identify this unit. So you click on identify the unit, and unit 1 will start flashing colors, okay? Then you want to click on unit 2 to make sure that it is actually in the position that it should be in. So this should be unit 2. Click on identify this unit. Unit 3 is actually flashing, which means at some point in time, during a power outage, during a restart, during somebody doing some service work, and they may have misaligned the boards. Somebody got curious and went in and was trying to modify the system to make it potentially work better. If these valves are not in order 1, 2, 3 with the brine connections, you will end up with short brining situations. So what you want to do is just go in, like this should be unit 2, but it's not. It's the third valve. So what we want to do at that point is we want to go into what would be unit 3, identify unit 3, and it's actually the second tank, so you simply just, below that you'll see a button that says move this unit up. Just click on that button, give it the OK, and essentially what we're doing right now is we are realigning these valves. So now if you go in, identify unit 1, unit 1 is now unit 1, okay? Go in, identify unit 2, now unit 2 is unit 2. Now you want to go in and identify unit 3. And as you can see, unit 3 is unit 3 now. So now your units, the equipment is back in the sequence that it needs to be to operate correctly. The other thing you'll want to look for is when the units are actually in regeneration. The lights on the display will indicate the position of the piston. If the light, what they'll do is when the unit goes into regeneration, the first step is a backwash. So you'll see purple lights. They'll be rotating while the piston is running, or while the motor is running and moving the piston. Once they get into the backwash position, the lights will be a steady purple, kind of oscillating back and forth like what you see here with the white lights. This is in brine draw at the moment. So you'll see purple lights for the backwash, white lights oscillating back and forth for the brine draw, and then with the commercial units, they actually go into a second backwash after the brine draw to get a better rinse. So you'll see it move back into position and you'll see the purple lights oscillating back and forth. Then you'll come to like a light blue, and that's going to be a rapid rinse. That's going to follow the second backwash. The last thing it's going to do is it's going to go into a short pink light brine refill. And during that brine refill process, you'll also hear the motorized ball valve open and close to allow the water to go into the brine tank. And then as soon as that brine refill is over, you'll hear this valve close, and with this valve in service, depending on what your water flow is, now this is shifted over, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, depending on your flow, it may come out of that brine refill and go directly back into lights being yellow, sitting in standby, waiting for its opportunity if it's needed for progressive flow.